David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, how much of the cumulative $15 billion drop in GDP over the next 4 years, as identified in Treasury's February monthly economic indicators report, is a result of the, quote, weaker outlook we were seeing prior to the February earthquake in Christchurch?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, the member will find that outlined in the Treasury's monthly economic indicators report for February, published early so that people can have good information. It notes that of the $15 billion drop in GDP over the next 4 years, about $10 billion of it relates to changes before the February earthquake. Just to clarify the expected growth path of GDP over the next 5 years, the growth will be in excess of $1,000 billion and is expected to grow about 13% in real terms. The pre-quake revisions lower the cumulative projections by about 1%. So there was an expectation of 13% growth in real terms. That is now expected to be about 1% less.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, did Treasury indicate prior to the February earthquake that unemployment for the next 2 years would be higher or lower than predicted in December 2010's half-yearly fiscal update?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, no, they hadn't, Mr Speaker, although even in the absence of the earthquake, it is likely that their employment forecast would have softened a bit. It happens that they've just started their forecast round for the budget about when the earthquake hit. So clearly from here on, both the original slowdown in the economy and the impact of the earthquake are going to affect employment. We would expect unemployment to be a bit higher in the short term, but in the longer term, as has been discussed in the House today, we're likely to have skill shortages by the middle of next year, which is a good sign for employment.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, to the Minister, given that it was a priority for his government to reduce public debt, even at the cost of reducing services to New Zealanders, is he prepared to consider rolling back some of the tax cuts to high-income earners to spread the cost of the recent earthquake over time, or does he now consider it appropriate to borrow the lot and add it all to New Zealand's international debt?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, we would expect to spread the cost of the earthquake over future years. As I've outlined, there's not a lot of choice about taking on further debt. The earthquake's happened. The government has spent probably in the last couple of weeks around $200 to $250 million already because we believe in giving Canterbury and the people of Christchurch all the support that they need. And as I've outlined, we're going through a pretty considered process of how we can haul back the extra burden of debt that we're taking on in the short term.
Craig Foss.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, how much fiscal stimulus is reconstruction from the earthquakes likely to generate?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the effect of the earthquake will come in a couple of phases. In the first instance, it's going to be negative from the point of view of the government's books and its effect on our fiscal position. But when we look out over the future, the expected rebound will be sizable. Our preliminary forecasts show total investment spending lifting by over 40% and residential investment by over 80% over the next 4 years. I mean, the size of the disaster will have to be matched by the size of the reconstruction effort. The combination means that we're likely to see growth rates lift above 4% next year on average across the economy, and that will be positive for employment.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, further to my previous supplementary and leaving aside any possible change to the EQC levy, is the Minister prepared to rule out for the House any change to tax rates, levels or thresholds, or rule out a specific earthquake levy as part of the balanced consideration he is giving to spreading the costs of earthquake recovery over time?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the government, in the couple of weeks we've had since this disaster, the government's position has been pretty consistent, which is that we're not ruling out a levy or equivalent measures, but as our strong preference not to reverse the direction we've taken, which has been to improve incentives in the economy for savings and exports and investment, and because that in the long run will help us with stronger economic growth. We'd prefer not to do that if we can avoid it.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, given that answer, is he alternatively considering reducing entitlements under working for families, for example, for a two-income family with 3 children, where both partners work and earn a combined income of around $80,000 per annum?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, with respect to working for families, there was some discussion about that last week, and the government has indicated that it hasn't ruled out changes for higher income earning families. But certainly at this time when people, particularly in Canterbury, dealing with uncertainty, we'll stick to our principle of protecting low income earners.
Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, I think you'll agree it was a pretty straight question, and it gave a specific and straight example of a two-earner family earning $80,000. The Minister replied, sir, that they were thinking of reversing working for families entitlements to a high end.
Order. No, the member's rehearsing the entire question now. I hear what he's... the member resume his seat. I hear the member resume his seat. He cannot expect the Minister, in answering the question, I think indicated the government's made no particular decision on the matter. So how can he be more specific with respect to that specific example if the government's not made specific decisions on it? That was my understanding of the Minister's answer. The Honourable David Cunliffe.
A further point of order, Mr Speaker, and I do apologise. If I had a further supplementary, I would use it to perhaps work my way to the same clarification. But what I would submit to you, sir, was within the ambit of a perfectly straight question, is the question of whether a combined income of $80,000 qualifies as a high...
Order. The member resume his seat. He's trying to relitigate the issue. The Minister, I listened to the answer carefully. The Minister indicated there have been discussions on the matter. No decisions had been made, except if I remember his answer correctly, he said that low-income families would be protected. The member cannot expect more of an answer if, in fact, no decisions have been made. Final decisions have been made on the matter, and he cannot address the detail of that particular question. It had better be a further point of order.
It's a different point of order, Mr Speaker.
The Honourable David
Mr Speaker, I seek leave to table Treasury's February Economic Indicators report, which indicates that...
Don't all members have the Treasury Indicators report? I beg your pardon?
May not. It's not a press article.
It's not a press article, but it's available to all members. Now, we're not going to waste time in the House on stuff that's available to all members. Now, order. We're not going to waste time tabling stuff that's available to all members. Question number 5, Dr. Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.